the work that we do is really liberating and exciting. And I mean, we kind of laugh about it, but it influences everything around us. I can't ever go back to, um, I don't want to say like oppressed ways of thinking, but, really inside the box ways of thinking. We're really controlled by constraints of society the way it is. And working at Indian Collective has really given me permission to think outside of that and to reimagine systems in ways that benefit us and suit us. Um, it's given me the like lens to look at the world through, like, what would a world that was just and equitable look like? And like we talk about it all the time. It's just like a liberated way of thinking and being. And so like talking about this meeting that I was just in, it's a conflict between wanting to preserve IHS the way it is and wanting to contract and build a new healthcare system. And all I could think, as they're fighting to defend IHS, I'm like, they're like treaty obligations and all this stuff. And I'm like, these treaty obligations, like, these were never meant to serve us. Like, they're meant to placate us, and they don't serve us. They've been killing us. Like, IHS, the way it is, has been killing us. Like, we should take these resources, take that treaty obligation and turn it into a system that works for us, that's built by us, that is for us. And it was funny because afterwards people are coming up to me and just like, that's really powerful. And I'm just like, it's not like even anything new. It's just like our people aren't used to thinking about the world like that. Or even our treaty obligations, we don't think about them from that lens.
So you mentioned what happened at Mount Rushmore on July 3rd. Could you explain what happened on that day for someone who maybe doesn't know?
yeah, so we believe pretty heavily in on, oh, what's it called, unidrip, on the president should have, I'm gonna have to remind myself, gotten prior informed consent from the tribal nations before he came into the Black Hills, because there's technically still treaty land. And so our stand, or the protest that day, was really about, he did not get consent. He was not welcome here. And the celebration that was being held in our Black Hills with the fireworks and the whole kind of theme of democracy while under this oppressive umbrella of politics in our country, that just weren't going to stand by and watch it happen. And so it was really about prior and informed consent, and that he didn't have it. We did not want him on our lands or in our Black Hills, and that what they were doing and the fireworks and having a little Trump rally up there was a desecration of a sacred site and a place that we hold, especially the people who live here in Rapid City, that we hold near and dear to our hearts. And we revere the Black Hills and recognize that we live on sacred lands. And so we held a protest. We closed the road. There was lots of traffic going up to Mount Rushmore that day, so we closed the road. We did it peacefully, and I was there and can totally attest to it. Like, we were having a good time. There was music playing and people eating. There was kids there, and we were just singing and being together and just saying that the president didn't have prior and informed consent to be in our treaty lands. What I saw happen that day was violence brought forth by the police state and an overuse of power to quell a group of, less than 100, and that didn't have any weapons, and were not being violent. I still contest the idea that Akeisha's and stuff are not violent. I know people get scared when they hear Manakisha or they hear women Trill or Lily, and that they perceive that as violence, but it's not. It's like celebration on our behalf. And that day was really beautiful. And so it was scary to watch. My husband and I were on the side going up towards Mount Rushmore, And so on that side, we watched the National Guard come marching down in formation, um, shoot pepper balls on the ground by grandmas who were still within the speech free zone. They were safe, like they were in the within the barriers of where they were legal still, and watch that the pepper balls blow back on them, and to see hear grandmas and kids coughing, and watch the National Guard chase people off the hill and force them down onto the road, women and kids. So we had a friend and her two sons that were up on the hill that were to keep out of the way, and like National Guard came out of the forest behind them and chased them down the hill. Um, and watched it escalate, watched them bring all this violence and craziness, brought shields and are pushing people. Um, and the really crazy part about it is, they kept saying like, you need to leave now, or like or I can't remember what they're saying, but it was like, you have to leave. And so where we were at on the Mount Rushmore side of the blockade, um, there was the National Guard, and there was the vans, and then there was the people, and there's people on both sides of the vans kind of walking around. And then on the other side was the National Guard and the sheriffs and Rapid City Police Department and Air National Guard. And so like it was like ridiculous. Like they were saying like, you need to leave, but we literally couldn't. We were parked down the hill. It's like we couldn't. We were like half a mile from our car with like four lines of law enforcement or military between us. Beyond them were a bunch of crazy Trump supporters who were like screaming at us and saying, get off, like go back home and get off. I don't know, just all crazy stuff. Um, and so we couldn't. And so it was weird for them to be like, you need to leave now or you're going to be arrested. And it's like, where do we go? I have some relationships with the police department and the sheriff's department. So I like literally went up and was like, okay, we're trying to take down we had a shade there and water and Gatorade and stuff. And I'm like, we're trying to take this down. Like you're doing a countdown. Like, can I have permission to take this down? And then, um, can I get an escort across that police line? Cause I'm not, I don't want to get arrested. And, we were able to negotiate that, but yeah, um, they stayed there for about 2 hours, singing, dancing, laughing, talking. Nick was giving his reasons or publicly stating why we were there, and just saying, that there was no prior and informed consent, and that the Black Hills are treaty lands that belong to us and are part of the Great Sioux Reservation, and that, um, we were there as stewards of our land, and that he wasn't, that they weren't welcome. Um, but yeah, we finally left. So they did a countdown and watched all of our friends and relatives get arrested. We made it past that and into our cars and drove back through Keystone, which was like a full out Trump rally. Like nobody can tell me that it wasn't. It was definitely 100% a Trump rally. As we were driving back through, like people were running up to our car and like yelling at us and screaming stuff and screaming Donald Trump. Like it was crazy. They're like crazy, crazy Trump rally, Trump people there, Trumpsters, I guess is what they're called. But um, so yeah, we were there for before the blockade for probably about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So we were there for a total of probably 5 to 6 hours. There's a lot of people I knew, a lot of people that work at NDN, but that didn't and that support um, land back and support the concept or the idea that Lakota people or the Ocheti Shakoi will someday reclaim our lands in the Black Hills. And so it was community. It was community, it was family. There's a lot of people there. And I watched police bring violence to that and a non-violent protest in a violent way with arrests, and watch them overcharge my friend and coworkers.
So, thank you for explaining that. That's insane. I saw a little bit about it, but I didn't know the extent of it. Um, Earlier you mentioned that because of your upbringing, you knew who you were and where you came from. And as a person, as a Lakota woman, you know you come from the Black Hills. How does it feel to be in the Black Hills and have someone tell you to go back home?
Honestly, at that moment, we were just laughing because they were so irate that we had blocked the road for that rally. That I mean, it was funny, and my kids are on my Snapchat. They're like, "Mom, no," because I was like, "We are home," and like they're just like, "No, no, you're not!" Like yelling back, and um, but no, the irony is like we see it all the time, and it's weird to want to go out and harvest, and like Tracy and I saw like the cedar tree, and I was like, "Dang, I want to get some cedar." And it's like all fenced off, and we're just like, you know what, we're gonna jump the fence and go get cedar. And but it's weird to see in that context and recognizing that our people use this place as an oasis and as a place to hold ceremonies and stuff. And there's like very little places you can go out in the Black Hills now where there's not four-wheelers all over and motorboats and people drinking. And so in that way it's really like it's just like a constant desecration of the Black Hills is what we see living here. And so that part's really hard. We Crystal Tubles held a meeting one time, or a land back strategy meeting, and her question was, what is your land back dream? And like that was part of it. Like everybody got to answer what they thought their land back dream was, but like that came up. You know, one was that we would have like places, protected places to harvest and have ceremonies. Like other people are like, and not everybody's from the Black Hills, so it wasn't really particular to the Black Hills. And like other people are like, our kids would understand um their innate connection to this land, or like feel that connection and like understand like ancestral lands and where they're from. um it was just really cool, really cool. And that those are the kinds of conversations we get to have. I'm always like, dang, this is work, like what the heck, you know. And we're just dreaming big, and but big, but like totally like we're gonna do this. And it's funny because when we talk about land back, one of our coworkers is like, we've just changed it because we don't talk about it as just a dream. It's like an eventuality, or like, you know, like it's gonna happen. We just start like getting moving, you know, moving all the pieces together to get us there. And so that's like been a really fun way of talking about it or thinking about land back. And I think that's one of the reasons that makes it so exciting.
Can you explain like the premise of land back and like what it means?
Yeah. Um, I have to read the Land Back Manifesto because that is the best way. And Crystal's like a genius and is totally grounded in this work. And like we couldn't have a better person working for that campaign. Um, but this is the manifesto. So let's see. It is the reclamation of everything stolen from the original peoples: land, language, ceremony, medicines, kinship. It is a relationship with Mother Earth that is symbiotic and just, where we have reclaimed stewardship. It is bringing our people with us as we move towards liberation and embodied sovereignty through an organizing political and narrative framework. It's a long legacy of warriors and leaders who have sacrificed freedom and life. It is a catalyst for current generation organizers and centers the voices of those who represent our future. It is recognizing that our struggle is interconnected with the struggles of all oppressed peoples. It is a future where Black reparations and Indigenous land back coexist, where BIPOC collective liberation is at the core. It is acknowledging that only when Mother Earth is well can we, her children, be well. Let's see. It is belonging to the land because we are the land. And so, yeah, I'm like, holy cow, Crystal. And the first time she sent it through was a draft. And I was like, what are you going to change out of that? Like, it's literally. And so that moves beyond literal land back. It's, and that's the best. So it's their campaign demands are dismantle, defund, return, and consent. And all in broad terms, but all really narrow down to. And like when you look at it, you just, yeah, that's what land back is.
And that's what would you like people to know about your community's contribution to South Dakota?
I think that our people bring the reminder that we're all interconnected, um, and that our people are connected to land, to animals, to plants, to the things we eat, and to each other in a way that is acknowledged all the time. And so I do like, when we talk about Midakwe Oyase, I like that as a way of just thinking about the way we interact with the world around us. And that's who we are as Indigenous people. And I think that's our legacy, is just that we are good relatives to each other. And that's the best of us, and that's innately who we are. Addiction and mental health and poverty does things to people, but that doesn't change who they are and who our people are. And that's our contribution, is that's who we um it's who we always have been. And so it's nice to be able to work in a job where we can like lean into that and like figure out like how does that look in the work that we do, um because that is who we are. And like at the basis of everything that we do, Indigenous people, at the basis of everything we do, it's for our people, it's for our kids, it's for our elders, it's for our women. Like it's really just about um everything that we do is for each other. And I like that part in the land back manifesto where it just says it's just recognizing that until the earth is well, like we're not well. And like our people, they'll live that connection like every day. And that's like our contribution to this land, not just South Dakota, but like this land. It was funny reading The Journey of Crazy Horse. He talks about like landmarks, and like we lived beyond Sheridan, Wyoming, and like out in the Bighorns. And so when I think about that, I'm always like, we always confine ourselves to thinking of our reservations as home. But all of this land is home, and it's so weird how we're just connected to it in all those different ways.